Hi, my name's Claudie, I'm a content creator and this is how I got into doing content. So just to preface, I'm a content creator. I currently work with brands on content for their social media. I'm also a social media manager and a licensed drone pilot. So I do those three things professionally. I'm a freelancer and that's what I do. But here's the story of how I got there. I've always loved making videos, whether that's a dance video with my sister in my bedroom, a compilation of photos for my mum for Mother's Day on Windows Movie Maker, or just like random videos of like my digital camera like zooming into people's faces or whatever it is. I've just always loved filming stuff and putting it together and like editing. And I remember my birthday, I must have been maybe 12 or 13. I made my mum go to Curry's with me and I spent £100 on some editing software that my computer couldn't run. And I didn't know that, but my computer couldn't really run it. It was the Cyberlink Power Director. And I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to know now forever. It's just so funny just looking back at like the silly things that you do as a kid. But yeah, I did film studies at GCSE and loved it. I was like, this is so interesting. Like, learned all about like superhero films, learned all about how like horror films were made and like how creative decisions were made on different films. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like the most interesting thing ever. And from that point onwards, I was like, I'm going to work in the film industry. I'm going to be in the film industry. Like, I'm going to be a director. I'm going to be a camera op. I'm going to just thrive in that industry or the TV industry. I mean, I was like 14, so I didn't really 14, 15, I don't know, how old are you when you do, like 15 when you do GCSEs? So yeah, I was like, I'm going to go into the film industry or the TV industry or something and I'm going to love it. And so yeah, I did film studies A-level, I took media B-tech at A-level, and then I did maths as my backup subject. So I was like, if all else fails, I can be an accountant, I'm pretty good at maths. Safe to say, I'm not an accountant. So yeah, again, that just kind of fueled my passion. Media studies was more like the making of. We learnt about advertising and more like we did a bit of stop motion. I can't remember what else we did, but it was more like the doing. And the film studies course was more like the knowing why. So hand in hand, they both work really well together. I love both of them. And then when it got to applying for university, I was like, I just know that I need to be in London. And so I went and viewed a couple of different universities and kind of landed on Westminster. I loved that they had a TV studio and a film studio like on campus. Their equipment was really, really great, just compared to other universities that I'd been to. And I was like, yep, this is where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to be. I just knew London was where I had to be. And I kind of felt like that. I don't know why. I went to visit and I was like, yeah, this is where I'm going to call home. They had a really great like a going abroad program as well, which was really important to me. So yeah, Westminster it was. I applied for the film degree, and unfortunately, I had the letter through the post. Sorry to say that you've been rejected. So yeah, that sucked. But it wasn't all bad. I got offered a place on another course I'd never even heard of, called Contemporary Media Practice. And basically, in short, what that was film studies, photography, but there was also an element of like installation art as well. So kind of with that degree, you could kind of pick where you wanted to go with it. So every module that you did, you could either pick to go down a film path, a photography path, or an installation path. I never did a photography path. And I did one installation path, but it was kind of like a mix between film and installation, where we did an ad for WaterAid. It was like a little step machine, and we coded it so that every time you stepped, it would like play the video, like walking the length on Oxford Street that you would have to walk, like a child would have to walk in Africa to get to a water source. So that was like a good like visual representation, if that makes sense. But that's the only installation piece that I did. Everything else I did was all film based. So we made like short films. I did an animation. In my third year, I produced a short film, which I'll link it below, but it was all about a little boy whose older sister had passed away. and it was like him grieving and learning to live without her. And I mean, it sounds really sad. It was like the most beautifully shot, like art. The team that I worked with on that, it was just impeccable. And we're all students, but I still look back at that. I still look back at that film now and I'm like, wow, I'm so proud that we did that. Like, I can't believe we pulled it off. We had to fundraise for it. It was a whole thing. And yeah, just insane. When I was in my second year, I did 6 months abroad in Hong Kong, which is so funny because I've got my Hong Kong t-shirt on today. This is from a recent holiday. But yeah, I went and did a 6 month stint in Hong Kong, which I absolutely loved. My course there was still film and photography, etc. But yeah, it was like really, really different. I did one on British cinema, which was all about... what was it all about? It was like the early British cinema. So like when like cinemas first opened and like the first movies ever made. All about like, I did one about American cinema as well, which was all about like femme fatale and like that kind of era of cinema, which again was really interesting. Like I'd kind of learned about it in my film studies A-level, but then it was kind of like just a bit more in depth. And then I did a photography module where it was like a tin can and you had to go and like hide the tin can somewhere. So I put it on the roof of my accommodation building, which was like 30 stories high. It was so high. And it basically it was like a pinhole camera. I mean, if you've studied photography or film or anything, you probably know what these are. I didn't know what they were until I did that. But I've since seen loads of people do them. But it's basically a tin can with a pinhole, you poke a hole in it with a pin and put a piece of film paper in it. And it basically like slowly takes a picture over I think we left it for like 2 weeks. So that was really interesting to do. Like I definitely wouldn't have had that opportunity had I stayed in London. But yeah, my degree was so good. And the best thing about it was the last year, or my final year, the first semester, your dissertation and your prep for your final major project, which was the second half of the year. And it was all the planning, the script writing, the fundraising, basically all the prep for the film that you were going to make in your second semester. And so we shot that film in January. We had child actors, so we had to go through speaking with councils, getting permission. What are they called? The adults that come with the kids. It's really, I can't remember. But the adults that came with the kids, we had to sort out all their fees and everything. And just the whole thing was really interesting. We booked an Airbnb and got permission off the owner to film in their house, etc. And yeah, it was such a big project. Second half of my year, it was really focused on how to get a job and where you're going next. Well, throughout my whole degree, to be honest, it was really encouraged that you got work experience and work placements and found experience, because in the film industry, it's definitely how much experience you've got and your connections that you make, rather than how much knowledge you've got. And I mean, you learn on the job. Do you know what I mean? So I worked on loads of short films, and kind of halfway through my third year, I kind of went, you know what, film industry, not for me. And then I kind of had a midlife crisis where I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I have no idea what to do now. And I came across a website where you could sign up to be an intern for companies and do their marketing. So you could, well, not do their marketing, but work within their marketing team. It was all remote. You could do it, it was really flexible. I can't remember what it's called now. And I think they've changed their name. But if I can find it, I'll pop it below. But yeah, I did two internships with them. I did one homewares company. It was a really artisanal homewares company. It was really interesting. So that was one of them. And then the other one, it was for a homestead blogger lady. And she was so lovely. But yeah, that was the two internships that I did. And I kind of just was I love social media. This is so much fun, especially the first one when I was doing all the homeware content and actually making their posts and making their videos and making their stories, and was right, how's this going to go together? And the storytelling aspect of it all. And I just loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. So one of my modules in my third year was basically how to get a job. And so I did all this research on social media managers, becoming a content creator, what were the pathways that I could take. And so I kind of just fell into social media that way. My first job was in a school, and I thought, maybe I could be a film teacher. I could inspire the next generation, my film like my film teacher had done, you know, for me. It didn't work out. It didn't work out. I saw how much paperwork the teachers had to do, and I was like, this is less about the teaching and spending time with the pupils and the students, and less time inspiring, more time writing paperwork. And I just thought, you know what, this is not for me. So I was only there for a few months, and then my partner moved down to Oxfordshire, and I was living with my parents at the time, and it was basically a whole ball of disaster. Nothing to do with my parents, it's just I feel like once you've moved out, you don't really want to move back in. So I moved down to Oxfordshire with my partner, and he got a job and I got a job in customer service working for a furniture company. It was a really small furniture company. There was about 5 employees there when I first started there, but then lockdown hit. COVID happened. What a disaster that was. And it just went crazy. And I basically had convinced the manager, the managing director, look, you're not very good on social media. The company's not doing very well on social media. Let me do it for you. And I basically just took over the social media accounts as, you know, half my customer support job and half just doing their social media. And I basically just told them I could do it and did it. Not very well, but I did it. And then that basically was the key to get my next job. And so I worked at Ultimate Activity Camps, my favourite job I've ever had, for 3.5 years. And I was their content creator there. I looked after all their social media, did email marketing, did website, did content. I did so much there. And it was a real pivotal point in my career journey where I was like, I love this job, I want to do more of this, but I want to do more of this small section. And so with the business being so seasonal, they only ran camps in the summer or in Easter. There was only like about 8 weeks of the year that I could actually go and do the thing that I loved the most, which was making content. And so I was like, right. And so at the end of that 3.5 years that I was at UAC, it kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm really enjoying the people here, but I'm not enjoying the work for the other, 8 weeks, 44 weeks of the year. And so the rest of the 44 weeks of the year, you know, I was doing marketing stuff, but it wasn't the stuff I really, really enjoyed. So I got a job with an agency as a content creator. I was like, great, this is what I'm going to do full-time content creator. Can't wait. It's going to be so great. And it was, do you know what? I learned so much in that role. I didn't like that I couldn't pick which clients I worked with. I didn't like that there was someone else telling me what to do. I didn't like that I had to, you know, I didn't have autonomy over my work. And so I kind of just was like, you know what? I can do this by myself. And so I did and have, and that's where I'm at now. And so now I work with loads of clients just on my own. And yeah, I love my job now because I'm self-employed. And I'm not saying that self-employment works for everyone, because it definitely doesn't. And I'm still employed for some of the time in a week. But definitely this is my goal going forward. And yeah, that's just a little bit about, I guess, my journey and how I got here. And yeah, you don't need followers to make money on social media. Who knew? If you've got any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. But if anyone else is thinking about going into content creation as a career, then I highly recommend it. If you've got any questions, then I'm happy to answer them. Bye.